This brief webinar has been designed to acquaint those responsible for making early childhood outcome ratings with the sections of the newly revised Missouri Outcomes Summary Sheet. Before we dive into the MOS, it is important to understand that the updated form is a result of new expectations for the ECHO process of determining the entrance to and exit from ratings for ECSE programs. But this shift in expectations did not lead to any new requirements for the ECHO process. As a part of the new expectations for how these ratings are to be determined for all children in our ECSE programs, a series of 7 module webinars have been created as professional development resources for early childhood special education staff. It is suggested that program staff watch these webinars and discuss as a group. However, they may also be watched by individuals as many times as necessary for a true understanding of the way ECHO ratings are to be determined. The full series of 7 module webinars will be available on the DESE website by early fall of 2022. They can be found on the Office of Childhood webpage under the Quality Programs, Preschool Programs, Early Childhood Special Education tab. There are also a few helpful reminders to note before looking at the form itself. The MOS was designed to be completed by a team of adults who know the child, as well as to support teams in making appropriate ratings for the children with whom they interact. It serves primarily as a place to put data, a repository for all of the relevant information a team has for a child, so the information needed is all in one place for the ratings discussion. It also is an accountability tool serving as documentation that the process for making these ratings has been followed. Please note that this form is recommended for use in these rating discussions, but it is not a DESE required form. Demographic information, including the child's name, date of birth, the name of the district, and the school name, are recorded in this section. Every child who receives services in the ECSE program should have a MOSIS number. Children exiting First Steps into our ECSE programs were assigned a MOSIS number when they entered the First Steps program. Your system will need to request from DESE a MOSIS number for any children entering your program who have not transitioned from First Steps. At the top of this page, please note that a new form should be used for each occurrence of a rating. This means most children will have 2 sets of forms in their files, an entry and an exit rating form. In the type of rating section, indicate the type of rating for this form. You will either be choosing the entry rating box or the exit rating box. We have included a box for annual IEP rating. However, this is not a required rating. While annual IEP meetings are a good time to revisit the progress the child may have made in the skills represented within the 3 outcome areas, a rating at this time is optional. If teams determine they would like to do ratings at other times during the child's tenure in early childhood special education, they will have more than 2 forms for those children. These optional ratings are not submitted to DESE at any time. For the section titled ECHO Rating Date, this is the date the team meets to make these rating determinations. Be sure to include the month, day, and year of the rating. As a reminder, for most of the children in your ECSE program, you will have an entry rating date and an exit rating date on 2 separate MOS forms. Entry ratings should be made within 30 calendar days of the student entering the ECSE program. Exit ratings should be made within 30 calendar days of the student exiting the ECSE program. The first date of service section will reflect the same date on the entry and the exit MOS forms. This date represents the initial date of the IEP implementation. That would be the date the student entered your ECSE program and began receiving services. This is not always the same date as the initial IEP meeting date. As you know, we often do IEPs for children several weeks or even months prior to their actual ECSE program start date. Also, this date may not be the same as your ECHO rating date. Teams may want the opportunity to get to know the student prior to making the entry rating, or they may make the entry rating prior to the child entering the program based on the information provided by First Steps in the evaluation that was conducted. Again, the rating should be made within 30 calendar days of the student entering the ECSE program. As an example, Peggy received First Step services and was referred to ECSE. An evaluation was conducted and an eligibility determination meeting was held on March 31st. Peggy does not turn 3 until April 30th, so her first date of service will be April 30th. The team decides to do the echo rating at the eligibility meeting. Her echo rating date will be March 31st, even though the first date of service recorded for her will be April 30th. The date of exit from the program section reflects the last date the student received services in the ECSE program. It may be slightly different from your echo rating date for exit, as the team has 30 calendar days from exit to make this rating. For example, Sam is going to kindergarten and will exit the ECSE program on the last day of school this year, which will be May 24th. The team is going to meet on May 1st to do Sam's echo exit rating determination. The echo rating date for Sam will be May 1st, and his exit from the program date will be May 24th. This rating could also be made within 30 calendar days after Sam exits the program. However, keep in mind that this is a team process, including parents and caregivers of the child. It may be difficult to involve these individuals once the child has left the program. The names of persons involved in the ECHO summary ratings and the role sections include the team of people who know and work with this student. As previously mentioned, as well as discussed in detail within the 7-module webinar series, ratings are to be made by a team of people, including the families and the caregivers of the child. It is not a single rater decision. The names and roles of those who were involved in making this rating, either virtually or in person, should be recorded here. For each of the prompts in the Family and Provider Participation section, indicate a yes or no answer to the prompt. If the answer to any of these prompts is no, provide an explanation for why that family or provider did not participate. We need to remember to solicit input from parents and caregivers by inviting them to a meeting to discuss these ratings. In the unusual circumstance where a family member is not able to participate in the meeting, either virtually or in person, they should have an opportunity to provide their input either verbally or through written communication. The section titled Additional Sources of Information about the Child's Functioning provides teams with a way to document the various sources of information used in making the ratings in each of the 3 outcome areas. These sources are explained more fully in Module 3 of the webinar series. All of these sources may not be available for every student, nor is it required to have information for each of these sources. However, good ratings include information from multiple sources, not just one source. Teams are encouraged to gather and consider information from as many sources as possible when making ECHO ratings. Each of the next 3 pages of the MOS form are identical, but each page focuses on one of the 3 outcome areas. The infographic represented on each page is introduced in Module 2 of the webinar series and is referenced in more detail in subsequent modules. They are included on pages 2 through 4 as a reminder to teams that are having ratings discussions that each of these early childhood outcome areas focuses on a variety of functional skills that contribute to the overall outcome and not on separate domains or discrete skills. The links underneath the picture will take you to the more complete version of this infographic and the definitions of early childhood outcome ratings page, which will be helpful in completing pages 2 through 4. It is recommended that you print a copy of these resources for all who will be participating in the rating meeting. It would be best practice to provide those resources to parents and caregivers ahead of the meeting as well. Let's now discuss the sections of evidence support the rating for outcomes 1, 2, and 3. In preparation for the discussion about the outcome rating for each area, it is helpful to have a place to record all of the evidence a team may have gathered about this child's functioning over time. In each of these sections, there is a place to record the date of the piece of evidence, the child's chronological age at the time that evidence was gathered, the source of the information like an observation, a checklist, an assessment of some type, or any number of other data sources that might be available. Keep in mind, we are gathering information from numerous people with a variety of roles who interact with this child, including the parents or caregivers of the child. The section titled Extent of Age Expected Functioning shown in the relevant information lines up with the wording on the Missouri Definitions of Early Childhood Outcome Ratings chart linked under the infographic on the MOS form itself. Some children will demonstrate a continuum of functional skills at any given stage of their development. Upon entry to and exit from their early childhood special education experience, we are tasked with coming up with one rating number that best describes the child's current level of functioning across the breadth of the outcome area. Based on the data sources used and noted on this page of the form, the team should be able to use the definitions page to determine the level of skill being exhibited by that student for that particular data source. By placing check marks on this chart to represent the functioning level noted from the data source, teams will have a visual representation of which rating definition in the box above best captures the child's current level of functioning across the full outcome area. More information about how to determine a child's level of functioning is shared in Module 5 of the webinar series. This box is used for the team to record the overall outcome rating for this particular child on this particular outcome area. The prompt asks, to what extent does the child show age-expected functioning across a variety of settings on this outcome? The team has the benefit of being able to look at the boxes below to make an overall numerical rating for this child based on the evidence that has been presented throughout this meeting and in prior conversations about how the child is functioning based on what we know at this time. Once again, it will be helpful to have a printed copy of the Missouri definitions of early childhood outcome ratings chart, which is linked below the infographic on the MOS form itself. This is the entry rating or the exit rating that will be reported to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the MOSIS June Student Core file. You will need to work with your district's MOSIS person to ensure the ECHO data are included in the MOSIS file. For more information about MOSIS and core data, visit the DESE website under the School Data tab, Core Data MOSIS. The section at the bottom of this rating box is only to be filled out at the exit rating or at an interim rating during an IEP meeting if the district has chosen to make an optional interim rating. The question in this box asks, has the child shown any new skills or behaviors on this outcome since the entry rating? Even one new functional skill counts as a yes on this question. The purpose of this question is to note, if appropriate, that while the child may not be at an age-expected level for this particular outcome, he or she has made progress in this area when compared to the child's prior functioning at entry. The last two slides are included to show that while the outcome areas the team will be discussing are different, the sections on the form are the same and will be completed in the same manner for all three outcome areas. Each LEA will need to determine where these MOS forms are kept and what happens to them once the child exits the program. This concludes our short webinar on how to complete the new Missouri Outcome Summary Sheets. This information is also available in written format on the Office of Childhood page of the DESE website under Quality Programs, Preschool Programs, Early Childhood Special Education tab, ECHO.